And now for something completely different. Anybody else a Monty Python fan? Okay. My name is Chris Zull. I'm the City of Grand Rapids Traffic Safety Manager, and now I'm a marketing expert. Who knew? When I went to college, they didn't tell me that this was going to be a part of my job, but now it is. So I'll share those experiences with you this morning. The City of Grand Rapids in 2010, when I took over the department, had 0 on-street miles of bike lanes. It's not something we did. In a few short years, we changed that dramatically. I know it says 0 to 60 in 5 years, but we're actually up to 83 as of today. The City Commission started getting complaints or concerns. People would show up to commission meetings recognizing the on-street bike infrastructure, saying, how does it work? What are these things? Just because we read about it in a manual and we're a part of the profession, the rest of the world doesn't follow it as closely as we do. Their loss. So we came up with an idea on how to educate the public, and we pitched it to MDOT, and they supported it. So we put together a partnership, steering committees, and working groups so that we could administer this project. The committee identified the community needs and some of the issues. So we had advocates, we had drivers, we had neighboring cities as well. And we issued an RFP, which ended up putting together, at the end of the day, the good marketing team, the City of Grand Rapids, the Department of Transportation, and then all of the working group committee members. So we first started off by collecting some data. So we had a study phase, a development phase, an implementation phase, and an evaluation phase. We needed to know the basics, the what, the who, the when, the where, the how. And this is how we went about doing that. When you look at crash statistics throughout the state of Michigan, you'll find that the City of Grand Rapids had an 8.2% bike fatality rate, which was more than quadruple almost, more than triple the state average. So we knew that we had a problem specifically related to serious injuries with cycling in Grand Rapids. We looked at the UD10s for a 10-year period of time and found that the percent of bicycle crashes related to driving population is basically everybody that drives. But the percentages of cyclists related to age for the population were much younger. So you can see more of the crashes were happening with younger people, while the driver spectrum was pretty typical. The frequency of crashes, the darker the dot, the higher the frequency. So you can see right in our downtown core, we had a tremendous amount of crashes and injuries related to cyclists in the downtown area over that 10-year period. We also found that a lot of the severe crashes were happening near schools. So while the money was intended to study drivers and cyclists, we found that there was an under driving age population being impacted as well. So we weren't allowed to specifically address schools and school age children because we were focused on drivers and driver age cyclists. So the youth being at risk was a concern. We found the peaks in the afternoon, like school letting out time. We also found that young adults, like I had showed earlier, were the ones more often involved in crashes. And believe it or not, most of them were guys. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later. But again, the drivers, general representation of the population. It included all sorts of vehicles. No matter what you're driving, you had the potential to hit a cyclist and vice versa. And we found that a lot of the right turning crashes, right, look left, turn right, meet a bicyclist, was a pretty common occurrence. But that doesn't tell the whole story. The UD10 isn't a perfect tool, but it's what we have to use. It really misses out on some of the residents' point of view unless the officer really writes down everything they say. It wasn't very common. Exposure, it's very difficult to know how often the cyclists are out there and about. During type of crashes are generally not severe enough to be reported. And then, of course, the unreported crashes and distracted driving being more and more of a problem. Even though the data is important and intriguing to engineers, it's not the entire story. So we reached out to the community. We did an online survey and focus groups. And we monitored the demographics of the people responding. We made sure that we had a good balance between motorists and cyclists. And we actually closed the study or put a message out there saying, if you've met a certain demographic representation, we've got enough information from people like you. And our community went crazy. My voice isn't being heard. What do you mean you have enough from us? So we reopened the survey so that it could be more inclusive. And you can see that some of what they were reporting on was people passing too closely, distracted drivers, and drivers not using turn signals were some of the major complaints or concerns as a result of the survey and focus groups. We found that a lot of the motorists didn't have a working knowledge that cyclists had a legal right to the road. We knew that men and women behave very differently, both in frequency and on bike behavior. Men and women were treated differently when they were driving down the roadway or on a bicycle. We didn't have a lot of good ethnic or racial data to make conclusions there, and we needed more outreach to the minority communities. So we didn't just survey the public, we surveyed law enforcement too. Hey, boys in blue, what do we know about cyclists? What concerns do we have there? And we had found that many of the messages that we were proposing were perceived to be very important. Educating people about bike-specific behavior ranked well. Helping people to be seen didn't rate as well with the police, and promote respect among road users was also not as popular with the police opinion or the law enforcement opinion. So as a part of the research, we're planning to do some education. So we looked at the current tools available for educating motorists and cyclists. So Bikeability, Cycling Canada, the Illinois League of Bicyclists, the American League, and then NHTSA as well were all reviewed. We found that generally the League of American Bicyclists curriculum is the best one out there, although it's a little bit dated. Could use a little bit of updating and could become a little more specific to the audiences that we're looking to target. So it was suggested that we enhance the League's curriculum with some of our local data. So in addition to putting together a curriculum or using a training methodology, we also changed some of the rules. The city of Grand Rapids was the first one in the state to pass the what? 5-foot passing rule. You're welcome. We proposed the 3-foot passing rule, and our city commission decided that that was not good enough and pushed it to 5. And now it's a statewide conversation. No driving in a bike lane, some of the very basics that we just needed to state. I think the last time the bike ordinance had been updated was about the year I was born. So it was time to refresh it a little bit. The reflectors for the daylight or the dusk and dawn hours and dark, the 5-foot passing zone. Again, another one, opening doors, looking for cyclists to prevent dooring. And then a little bit of conversation about e-assist or electric bicycles. And we removed the requirement for bicycle registration. So we reached out to our community, our cyclists. Hey, we need your help. We need to get some messages out there. We need to understand the problems a little bit better. We need you to be a part of the steering committee. And we need to make sure that we're getting the right messages to the right people. So the Greater Grand Rapids Bicycle Coalition, She Rides Her Own Way, the Spoke Folks, all great organizations in and around the Grand Rapids area. So that led us to our media campaign. The goals of the media campaign was to create a foundation for long-term education. We want this to be something that we're going to be able to propagate through time. We want to reduce bicycle crashes and fatalities. The City of Grand Rapids has been talking about Vision Zero and other safety initiatives, and this fits right along with that. Increase the knowledge and the responsibilities of both cyclists and motorists. It was very important that we identified all road users and their behavior as a part of the solution to the education and respect effectively between both. And the big thing here is changing culture, right? Really creating a culture change. For the city, the state with the Motor City, this is kind of a challenge for us. We've been very auto-centric and proud of our muscle cars for years. So the people that we needed to target specifically on the driver's side was basically all the motorists. Anybody that is out there driving around needed to have the knowledge of what to expect with cyclists on the road. On the bicyclist side, we found that more of the crashes were occurring with males, younger riders, people that rode more exposure, right? And then on the city streets, you saw the map of the data earlier. And the most at risk are those cavalier young males that are indestructible. So the media campaign had some key principles. We needed a strong presence in the market. We were effectively using the NHTSA model to get out for a 2-week blitz in multiple different methods and markets in May and July. The messages were very targeted. We had some that were for the motorists and some that for the cyclists. And we were being very careful as to not point fingers at one or the other. We needed to make sure the messages were getting to the right person, the right place, and the right time, and in the right way. The messaging was very critical, and ultimately everything was to drive you to the website. We got great coverage. I even saw, in addition to the local news media, an article in Australia picking up on the bike education campaign and its launch. We started it with a press conference, get it kicked off, and our mayor was our speaker. She presented it. We gave away some things. People like free stuff, garnered some interest there. We had these media kits that we passed out to the community groups with a bunch of information. And so people would come by, pick up a media kit, go to their public meetings and share some of the information that we had put together. We gave away 4,000 bike lights as a part of the campaign. This is where we spent our money. Lots of money in outdoor, billboards, TV, radio, digital. We were on the back of buses, a little bit of money for social media. And let's get into what it looks like. Driving change was the theme. That's where we ended up. And so definitely a play on words here. You can see the meld between the bicycle tire and the automobile tire, and we are working on changing culture. And so the campaign is called Driving Change. Here's the website. The original version of the website had you identify as a cyclist or as a motorist, and as you clicked into that, you could get more information from your perspective or your point of view or where you wanted to learn more things about cycling and driving in Grand Rapids. We had brochures that we handed out. Again, you could see that we put together kind of a color theme. The motorists were identified with the blue messages, the cyclists identified with the yellow messages, and then the general information in the red and white for everybody. And here is one of the first work products. Oops. We broke it.
Okay, we are all here.
Did the audio come unplugged? Is it this guy?
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Okay. We'll try again.
Things for us have been good, as long as she is.
One more try.
We are all here tonight to try and months have been good, as long as she gives me my space.
Which I do.
Not 5 feet.
So coming through it all.
How come every time something important is said,
Sometimes I wish she'd just...
is anyone listening out there? Hello? Well, by following a few simple rules, we'll be on the road to harmony in no time.
Know the rules and improve your road relationships at grdrivingchange.org.
So as you can see from the messaging, we were intending to be funny, interesting, compelling, lighthearted. Relationship counseling, kind of the basis, right? We're driving change in Grand Rapids. You can see that each of the couples, one was a motorist, one was a cyclist. They were dressed as such. And then there was the balance, right? We had a message for the cyclists in the commercial. We had a message for the motorists as well. I've got another TV spot, but we'll keep going. I've got more fun stuff to do a little bit later. We also had radio ads, people calling in to the counselor asking for advice. Here's some of our presence in the market. Again, that color scheme popping out. Big billboards. We're on the back of buses, recognizing the new laws in Grand Rapids, right? Leaving 5 feet in particular. And so we ran this campaign last summer, and we compared the results. We had data from May through September of 2015 compared to May through September of 2016. And we saw, we're not to that slide yet. Okay, we saw 32 million impressions. So we got in the market, we hit it fast and hard, and according to the media experts, 32 million impressions. I'm not really in the media world. I don't know if that's good or not. It seems good, seems big, and there's only 200,000 residents in Grand Rapids, so it's likely that you came across it at least once. They were telling us that 7 or so was the average that any citizen in Grand Rapids would have seen this message. We surveyed both before and after to get a gauge on how well our messaging worked. Knowledge of the key rules, the 5-foot passing, stopping and obeying all the signs and rules of the road. Respect between the cyclists and motorists is a part of the culture, and then just the general awareness of the Driving Change campaign. As I had mentioned, the survey method was both pre and post so that we could compare their knowledge both before and after. We did in April prior to the campaign, and then in August following the last blitz, which was done in July. So we found statistically significant increases with familiarity with bicycles should follow the rules while riding, awareness of the 5-foot passing distance specific to Grand Rapids. I've been sharing some of these on my Facebook page, and just last night the conversation with my mother was, I didn't know that. And now she does. And some of the reported behavior is, yeah, I always leave 5 foot when I pass a cyclist. Well, the reported behavior and the actual behavior are very different. All right, let's move along a little bit quicker here. So we asked them what messages they saw. One of the choices was share the road. We didn't do any share the road messaging, but it was the most popular one. So somewhere along the line, that's been ingrained in everybody. The least popular or remembered was bicyclists are safer on the road. So that gave us some indication as to what to do with this year's campaign. Again, the billboards, the television, this is kind of where we spent our money. There we go. There's the results that I was waiting for. We saw an 81% decrease in fatal and serious injuries between that April through September timeframe from 2015 to 2016. Is it all because of the campaign? I can't tell you that without a doubt, but I can tell you it went in the right direction. And the conversations around Grand Rapids are more bike friendly than they've ever been before. So we were fortunately able, again, through the grace of the DOT, to extend our campaign to 2017. And we've retooled some of our delivery methods, and we have more information in the market here in May. For 2017, we kicked it off again with another press release, but this time we were celebrating the first ever bike safety education campaign, City of Grand Rapids, partnership with the local driving schools. We provided to them our materials for their driver safety education course. And we had tons of driving schools sign up. This is the first ever that I know of, could be the first for the state of Michigan. So there's 12 or more partners that we've already shared this with, and more have even asked to get our materials as well. We've had some more interviews. We're going to be running some 8 West segments and some daily 2s. You'll see us on Wood TV all summer long. Here's some of the press release, the pamphlets that we're handing out to the driving schools, and the 8 West coverage. All right. So this time around, instead of doing the 2 larger commercials, we did a series of vignettes. So these are much smaller, much easier to share, and much more social media focused. Let's do the 5-foot rule.
Hello, I'm Dr. Susan Wheeler, and this is Driving Change Road Relationship Counseling. Karina of Comstock Park writes, I know that I'm supposed to keep my car a certain distance from a bicyclist, but I'm not sure if I'm doing it right. Am I too close? Am I too far? Should I pass? Should I wait? What if they turn? What if they don't? I'm so confused. Please help. Well, Karina, sounds like a classic case of separation anxiety from not fully understanding the 5-foot rule. But that's okay. I can help. When you're passing a bicyclist, the law requires that you give them a 5-foot separation between your vehicle's right side and the bicycle, which includes your side view mirror. 5 feet is about half the width of most lanes, or about the length of a pool noodle. You may have to slow down and wait until there's enough room to pass the bicyclist safely, but you still have to maintain that 5-foot separation. So, Karina, remember to try to relax, give bicyclists their space, and always remember the 5-foot rule. Whether you're in a car, a bicycle, or just out for a walk, we are all responsible for each other's safety. I'm Dr. Susan Wheeler, and together we can work to improve our road relationships and drive change in Grand Rapids.
All right, so I've unintentionally teased that perfectly. You've heard the video, but you didn't get to see it. It's actually quite interesting. So get a hold of my presentation today, follow these links, find me on Facebook, and you'll be able to see the 8 different videos that we put together for this year. So with that, I'm all done. Thank you.